Interface, your number one news and current affairs program. My name is Tembisa Magele. Well, with South Africa's economy battling, experts say small and medium enterprises could be the solution to boosting the economy. South Africa's blueprint for economic growth, the National Development Plan, also identifies small business as an economic driver. But it's often government entities who fail small businesses by not paying them within the stipulated 30-day period. This week on Interface, we look at the plight of small businesses and government's failure to pay them on time. And we're also looking at the support provided by the Department of Small Business Development. And our guests tonight are Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Budima Namela, and Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, Ruth Bengu. But before we talk to them, let's take a quick look at this insert compiled by Zama Butelezi.
With South Africa's economy growing very slowly, experts say small and medium enterprises could be the solution to boosting the economy. South Africa's blueprint to economic growth, the National Development Plan, also identifies small business as an economic driver. But it is often the government departments and entities who fail to pay small businesses within the stipulated 30-day period. The Portfolio Committee on Public Administration is concerned over delayed payments by provincial departments and municipalities. Between March and April 2014, government departments owed small businesses 2.7 billion rands in overdue invoices. The amount has increased to 3.1 billion rands in the same period in 2015. Sindisiwe Mbeje is one of many small business owners who have been struggling to get the government to pay up. She recently testified before the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration hearings. The hearings were meant to find out whether or not government departments are paying suppliers on time.
From where I'm sitting, I have received my payments, but I've had hardships in the past, whereby when I started as a woman, I can name a few clients that owed me money, whereby we don't even deal with them now. Because when you go there and complain to them that, why is my invoice taking 90 days or even 60 days for that matter? They will tell you that the director hasn't signed, the CFO has not signed. Actually, it will be a long story. By the time you get the money, you owe everybody.
The government's failure to pay has impacted badly on the day-to-day running of Mbeje's business.
If people pay you after 60 days, what does that mean? You will be fighting with your suppliers as well, of which there are the important people in your business. You need to trust them. Business is about trust relationships. So if you drop them because you have not been paid, that is actually affecting you as a person.
Besides being owed millions by government, small businesses face major challenges when it comes to participating in the economy.
So if you are in the public service, you must know that it is a calling. You cannot go there and try and block government programs, because once you do that, you stifle development.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Peace Mabe, says non-payment has a huge impact on both businesses and the economy.
This also has a potential of breaking communities, breaking families. So it is a great concern. We expect that if money has been budgeted for, it has to be used within that financial year so that we improve the lives of the people as promised.
Economist Isaac Matsejo echoes Mabe's statement.
Small businesses play a very crucial role in this economy, particularly when coming to creating jobs at the local level. When we create small businesses in our areas, one of the things that we manage to deal with is migration within the country. And so small businesses will play a very crucial role. And when you look at government policies, you look at the National Development Plan, you look at the Industrial Policy Action Plan, you look at the New Growth Path, there's a big emphasis on creating small businesses, because those are the ones that are going to drive job creation in South Africa.
The banking industry is concerned with the impact non-payment has on small business growth and their credit records. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, as 24 out of 38 departments are paying on time. According to the Public Finance Management Act, as well as the National Treasury regulations, non-payment for services rendered by small and medium companies is equivalent to breaking the law, and this is punishable by up to 5 years in jail. Despite this, there is no record of disciplinary action taken against departments for failing to comply. Last year, following the national elections, government created the Department of Small Business Development. It is aimed at promoting and supporting small businesses. But it remains to be seen whether or not this will help alleviate some of the challenges faced by small businesses. Zama Buthelezi for Interface at SABC.
So as always, if you would like to take part in our discussion, you can do so by sharing your thoughts on our Facebook page at Interface on SABC2, or you can hit us up on Twitter at Interface on SABC2 or at Thembi Samachele. Now, we're going to be talking about all things small business and as much of that as we can squeeze into this half hour. And just to introduce our guests again, Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Buti Manamela, and the Chairperson for the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, Ruth Bengu. Thank you very much to both of you for coming through. Welcome. 3.1 billion rand, that's a staggering amount of money. Why does government owe so much to small businesses?
Look, I mean, and I think I must firstly start by saying that the figure has been worse. At its highest this year, provincial governments owed businesses in general 6.1 billion rand, that is in May. And, you know, through the unit that has been established, which includes the presidency, through DPME, Public Service and Administration, and Treasury, interventions have been made, follow-ups have been made, but with those companies that have directly raised complaints with, you know, the presidency. This money, you know, should have been there, you know, circulating within the economy, yes, creating more jobs, you know, sustaining small businesses, but also allowing them to reinvest into their, you know, businesses. And that's why it is a major priority, you know, for the president, and that's why this unit has been established to ensure that
I want us to talk a little bit more about the interventions that this unit has put in place, DM, but just in terms of some of the constraints and the bottlenecks, what is it that is making so many government departments and municipalities and everybody that's within the government sphere to not pay?
Look, I mean, if you look at, for instance, a province like the Northern Cape, it pays suppliers within 2 weeks if there's a legitimate invoice, you know, and all of that. So that's but one in terms of provincial government. If you look at, you know, in terms of national government, there's about 24 national departments which are paying, you know, suppliers within the 30-day period. So it shows that it is possible for this to happen. And that is why one of the assessments which we use as a department is to look as to whether, you know, government departments are paying suppliers on time. But it also has got to go into the competence of both the executive authorities, which is the ministers and deputy ministers, and also the accounting authorities, which are directors general, because we, you know, regard this as, you know, a financial, you know, offense. Because if one department or one provincial government can be able to do that, why can't we have all the other government departments doing it?
Mamruth, your assessment of how we as a country are supporting small businesses?
We still need to improve in supporting small businesses. What they have raised as felt needs are the following. One, lack of access to finance, lack of access to the market, inadequate skills training, which relates to technical skills and business skills, lack of adequate infrastructure, which is the infrastructure that they would operate from, as well as the support infrastructure like roads, telecommunication services, water and sanitation, and electricity, which are very, very important
in making the business successful. And the last one is the red tape and non-payment for goods and services that small businesses would have supplied.
So it's a multiplicity of challenges that they're faced with. And I want us to talk a little bit about the solutions right after this break. Talking small business development and support tonight on Interface and in conversation with the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Obuti Manamela, and also the Chairperson for the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, Mamruth Bengu. Mamruth, before the break, we're talking about overall the support that's been given to small businesses. What do you make in your assessment of the work that's been done so far by the Department of Small Business Development? Has it achieved much in the year that it's been in existence?
It has achieved a fairly, in a sense that there is now a broad understanding of what the issues are. Like I have mentioned, the 5 areas that need to be focused on, and then to then align the services to address those issues. You will remember that the function was with the Department of Trade and Industry, and it was just operating as a unit. And now it is a department. And what had to happen then was to first assess the programs that were offered by the DTI and look at them in terms of their relevance and impact to what is raised by small businesses. And then after that, develop programs that are then going to respond to the issues that are raised by the small businesses, including this one of the non-payment for services. But the non-payment of invoices also has to be linked to, one, access to finance, because if small businesses are borrowing at a very high interest and then there are delayed payments, the results of that is their closure, because they are taken by the banks as a risk, and as a result of that, their interest rates are very, very high, and the money is coming to them through intermediaries who can absorb the risk. So we need to really push for payment of their invoices on time so that they don't then accumulate more interest on top of the very high interest that they would have had to pay in the beginning.
So when the department and the minister appeared before the Portfolio Committee, we got reports that the Portfolio Committee said you were unimpressed with what has been done by the department. Is that true? Is that correct?
We were unimpressed by the pace at which the department was moving to open access to market. You remember that in the State of the Nation address of 2015, the president announced that government departments as well as the private sector have to buy 30% of goods and services from SMMEs and cooperatives. And what that then means is that the department had to move fast to engage with the private sector as well as other departments that have a market, so that the market is opened. But you also need to balance that with the supply. You can't just open the market without developing the supply to match the demand and the supply. So what we were not happy about was the pace at which the department was moving to understand the market that is there, so that the department would then come back and develop interventions that are going to develop the supply.
So they've undertaken to fix that now?
Yes.
DP, when we come back to the issue of non-payment of invoices, in the clip we were hearing about the penalties that should be put in place, that people should be jailed for up to 5 years. Why is none of that happening?
Well, look, I mean, I think firstly, the responsibility has to be borne, as I said, by the executive authorities and your or DGs. But secondly, that, for instance, we have not seen any, companies coming forth and saying, look, I've not been paid for more, for after 30 days, except a few which we have now acted on. One was with the Gauteng provincial government, and I think 2, 3 others. Even when the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration and monitoring and evaluation did public hearings, affected businesses did not come forward and say, look, this is the situation. And we also understand that it's because of, a multiplicity of factors. One is that, it's failure to budget. You know that you want to build a road, or you want stationery or something like that. It means that you've got to budget properly. We've got to have proper financial controls and capable human resource. People are going to ensure that from the supplier up to finance and that supplier being paid back, you need that internal capacities. But then there are also other stories. Which we think that, it's stories where you'll need evidence. For instance, people saying, look, I've done the work, this particular government department or municipality owes me 5-10 million. I've spoken to the managers there, but they say I must pay them so that I get paid. And those are the type of things where you'll need the collaboration of the person who's affected if there has to be, action taken.
But how do I log a complaint? What do I do as a small business, like the lady that we had in the clip who says, 60 days, I haven't been paid? Who must she talk to? Because usually they get sent from pillar to post in these departments. Shouldn't your ministry or your department at least have some sort of structure that says, if you are aggrieved or you feel that you haven't been paid on time, this is the procedure for you to follow, and let that be circulated to all the small businesses? No, most definitely. Look, what happens is that if there's any company, which by the way we pick, because we and all of government has been complying, we collect all the information relating to, how many have been paid, how many have not been paid, and I can tell you now that, last year around this time, we had about 25,000 plus invoices which were not being paid on time by national government, and today as we speak that number is below 12,000. So there is some work that is being done, but it's still a lot of money and a lot of invoices. And similarly at a provincial level, there is some progress. And I must say that obviously the big problem is there. So if you're not paid on time by government or government department, we will leave details which you will obviously show, so that whoever can then contact the presidency, the unit involved, or treasurer or public service and administration, so that action is taken. Thank you very much, Dion. So we take another short break now, and remember, if you want to take part in the discussion, you can do so on social media. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Interface, and we're talking about the support given to small businesses, yours included. So if you would like to take part in the discussion, or you'd like to tell us your story, you can do so on social media. On Facebook, it's at Interface on SABC2, or on Twitter at Tembisa Magele, or at Interface on SABC. Now, one of the announcements that was made recently, Mamruth, was that the problem of access to funding that you spoke about earlier is going to be dealt with. The department says that it's going to be overhauling its funding structure to make more funds accessible to small businesses. What exactly will that overhaul entail?
The overhaul will entail, one, making the forms that you fill up when you apply more user-friendly. Secondly, co-relocating the services into municipalities to make them more accessible to communities. Three, re-looking at the funding model. In the past, the funding has been directed to an individual business without taking into account the importance of funding the value chain. And that has been a hindering factor in a sense that a person who produces chocolate is funded, and that is processing. But for her to produce chocolate, she needs the raw material suppliers project also to be funded. And if the instruments then are not speaking to the value chain funding, you would find that you fund just one component of the value chain. And at the end of the day, you are not able to deliver. That is one thing. The last thing...
Linked to that, there's another announcement that was made about an initiative where you're going to be investing in high-growth businesses that turn over between 2 and 30 million rand. They were talking about new gazelles that are going to be formulated and all of that. Is that really where the priority should be? Because how many black-owned small businesses actually have a turnover of between 2 and 30 million rand a year?
Okay. We should understand small businesses as big businesses. It doesn't mean that if you are a small business, you must have a small turnover. What it means to be a small business is that you are able to provide maybe 5 jobs, 10 jobs, not having big machines. So it is a combination of the gazelles as well as also the people that are selling on the streets, the street vendors. How do we develop them? How do we assist the spaza shop people to have the value chain of them being the owners of the wholesale distribution centers that they buy from, and also being part of the manufacturing that feeds into the wholesale
so you want a multi-pronged approach. But do you feel as the portfolio committee that the assistance given to startups in particular is sufficient in this country?
No, that is why we are saying there has to be an overhaul. That is why the programs that came from DTI, we looked at them to say the department must do a scientific assessment of how relevant those programs are in terms of holistically developing an SMME and a cooperative. And we are all in agreement to say they need to be overhauled to reduce the time of accessing the fund, and also to reduce the interest rate, and also to ensure that funding is of the entire value chain.
DM, one of the biggest problems is that there's fragmentation in the way that the problem of support to small businesses, the problem of non-payment of invoices has been approached historically by government. How are you dealing with that?
Look, I mean, the establishment of the small business department is exactly to consolidate all of government's effort towards supporting, small business. And I mean, I think the strategy that the minister is driving is actually helpful. We need to obviously, as the chair of the portfolio committee indicated, need to start seeing the fruits. I mean, the NDP's target says that by 2030, we see small businesses contributing close to 11 million jobs into the economy, which means that you need about 1 million small, macro and medium enterprise in the, yes,
which is why
active.
I asked the question, are you happy
and therefore you need
with the progress made so far?
Of course. I mean, if you look at, for instance, in terms of youth businesses, the NYDA just for this year has supported about 1,000 small businesses, and
DM, we're going to get into trouble. We've run out of time.
Okay.
And I am definitely going to get into trouble. This is such an important topic, and we do want to give those contact details, but we will do so on our Facebook page and also on our Twitter pages. Thank you very much for joining us for this show. Good night.